At least this was close to home for us. I'm going to walk behind that door. Maybe not right now. Did she come and want to take some of the pills that Donny had given her? I forgot it now. She tried to get me and Jimmy on until the 17th. So here's what it is. Yeah, you know, August is pretty much. Today's what, the 29th, so that's 2 more days.
They say I know we had big dreams and plans.
Where the summer goes.
But they can still come true, I know they
Hey,
can.
that's what my son went out
Be
to.
beside you,
We still got
they'll be near.
30 acres
When
of
I'm
land.
out fishing in
But when it
heaven,
rains, it's every other
guess I
day.
never really knew.
We got 16 acres of sugar.
Love in the breeze. No
I
word
think about trying to do it.
fishing
Little 6 foot
in
tall,
heaven.
16 foot wind. Wind rose or 4 feet long. So we can't throw them together, so all we do is now.
And all I ask is please carry on my legacy while I'm fishing in heaven, casting out and reeling in, sitting on
The
the
fish he
bank.
caught in way more than every fish I caught in my life.
No word for me,
Yeah.
fishing in heaven. I'll save a place for you by me, fishing in heaven.
Good afternoon. We're here to celebrate the lives of Donny and Monica Schaeffer. May this be a time of grieving and of healing as we remember Donny and Monica and what they meant to us. Hear now these words of promise from the Bible, God's holy word. From Psalm 124, verse 8. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Amen. And from John 11:25-26. I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Grace be to you and peace from God who is, and who was, and who is to come, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn of the dead, and ruler of the kings of the earth. Amen. We come together today to grieve and celebrate the lives of Donny and Monica. We grieve because the pain that is felt for the loss of a loved one cuts very, very deep into our hearts and our souls. Memories flood our thoughts with the times we spent together with them. Some grief may be encased in guilt for what was left undone and unsaid. Some grief is caused by the void felt deep within us. The loss of a loved one leaves an empty space that cannot be filled. So, we come together to mourn with each other, filling our voids and soothing our guilt with the shared experiences of others who are also grieving. We cannot avoid to walk tentatively by this room of mourning. We must enter into it. For to enter and engage in the process of grieving together brings comfort and hope. But why? Why comfort? And why hope? While we must grieve, we must also celebrate. For we will see Donny and Monica again someday as radiant as the day we first met them in our brief time on this earth. You see, Monica and Donny's bodies died, but their souls live on in the presence of their Savior, Jesus Christ. So, we celebrate. We celebrate their lives with us on this earth, and with anticipation, we celebrate our reunion with them in heaven. Amen. I did a real fancy presentation with YouTube videos and people who can sing a lot better than me, but was unable to play them for you today. So you got me. One of their favorite songs was I Come to the Garden Alone. Now I know many of you may know this, at least the chorus part. So I'll start us off, and if you're willing, just join in and sing along any part that you can remember. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me is falling, but he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I learned a lot about Donny and Monica because I didn't know them personally, I must admit that. You can learn a lot by listening to family and friends tell you about the memories we experience through the stories of others, what someone meant to them. After conversations with Charlene and Debbie, I began to think I knew them. Charlene sends her apologies for not being able to be here and to attend. She's very ill and cannot travel. But this did not interfere with her storytelling. The first thing she told me about Monica was how independent she was. The second thing was how they were typical sisters in the sense that they loved each other, loved being with each other, but sometimes didn't quite see eye to eye. That sounds pretty normal as sibling relationships go. Charlene recalled Monica's passion for bowling and gambling, occasionally. And I mean, she gambled occasionally. I think Monica may have combined the two. She was a very good bowler. She toured with the bowling club and spent a lot of time on the road. I would not have taken a bet against her making a 7-10 split. Monica also loved gardening, ice cream, the color purple, and dressing up to the nines. She loved going to the newest restaurants in town. She and Gordon would go to dinner often to check them out. However, I think what Monica loved most was her family. She loved getting together with Donny and Charlene. Family meant a lot to her, even after baby boy came along. Donny, baby boy, was a surprise. Fred and Helen, their parents, had not planned to have another child. Charlene was 8, and Monica was 11 at the time. Before Donny, Mom and Dad were totally focused on the girls. Then Donny comes along. Helen and Fred called him baby boy. They had always wanted a boy, and here he was, an untimely gift of a baby boy. What a joy for Fred and Helen. Not so much for Charlene and Monica, all the attention focusing on him. Yet I got the sense that baby boy grew on them. Big sisters can't help it. He must have been so cute. And if you've been watching the pictures, and we'll show him again at the end, he was a cute kid. Donny lived with Mom and Dad on the family farm outside of Windsor until they passed. Donny loved his farm. He worked full-time as a welder, but loved to be in the fields working on fun stuff at the farm. I'm not sure what fun stuff is because I'm a city kid. But whatever it was, he loved to do it. That made me think, wasn't there so much, or not so much fun stuff that had to be done around the farm? And Charlene said, yeah, plenty. But Donny didn't care too much about that. Donny loved to fish, hunt, water ski, and take trips to Alaska and Canada to fish. I kept thinking, though, what about that not so much fun stuff? I wondered who got that done. If you were to sum up Donny's life into 2 words, or if I was, loved life, I think are very appropriate. I don't mean this in a selfish way. I got the sense that Donny would give you the shirt off of his back if you needed it, and would drop whatever fun stuff he was doing and come to your farm and help you do the work on your farm. A kind and gentle soul who radiated God's love by what he did for others. We should all strive to live that kind of life. Charlene loved being with Donny and Monica. One year they were able to take a trip to the Grand Canyon. They walked on the Grand Canyon skywalk and just enjoyed being together. And not long after that trip, Charlene had a dream. She dreamed that while she was standing and watching Donny and Monica, that they lifted up into the sky, and they got higher, and they got higher, and then she couldn't see them anymore. And she wondered, is this a premonition of their passing before me? Charlene's dream reminds me of the ascension of Jesus. In Acts chapter 1, Jesus tells his disciples, "It is not for you to know times and seasons that the Father has fixed by his authority, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the end of the earth." And when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up into the cloud, and he was out of their sight. I believe Charlene's dream was a premonition. I also believe that one day she, baby boy, and Monica will all be back together, worshiping with their Savior. Do you believe? Do you believe? I pray that you do. It's now your turn to tell some stories. So I open up this space for you, and you, whatever you're comfortable with, standing where you are, come up front, or you can stand here. I open it up. What do you remember about Donny and Monica? Please come forward if you're willing, or stand.
Well, I'm Debbie Martin, and Don Schaeffer. It is true that you really don't know somebody until you start talking with them, they start telling you about something. I had never met Monica or Charlene, but I knew Monica and Charlene as if they were sisters, because when Charlene came down with cancer, we rallied around Donny, and we always asked how Charlene was doing, and when Monica went through a horrific divorce, and it was very hard for her. But, just praying for her that she would find the right one, and she did. She met Gordon, and just life couldn't be any better. She finally felt like she could be herself. Never married, but like Charlene and I agreed, she was with him long enough, it was common law they were two married. And Donny loved going over there. She would cook meals for them on holidays. So they were very much a close family, and they really were close. And they knew each other's secrets a lot. I mean, they could tell you stories, and we could just sit and love their stories, but there's some things I just have to share with you about Donny. So Donny had some things that he was very animate about, and if anybody knows Donny, he's very animate. He will not have ketchup at all. He refused ketchup on French fries or nothing. In fact, I don't want any ketchup. And I go, Donny, how come you don't like ketchup? Because my granddaughter lathers ketchup on everything. And so, but when he was in school, someone played a prank on him and messed with the ketchup jar. And so when he went to go put ketchup on this thing, it filled his whole plate. Well, the teacher made Donny eat every bite. From that day on, he never had ketchup again. Now I want to know, who was that boy? Who was that kid? But it messed him up for life. And another thing is no Chinese food. Absolutely no Chinese food. You don't know what they put in that. I'm just saying. You don't know what they're cooking. And I don't believe it's chicken. And I don't believe it's dog either, but it could be something other than that. Never liked Chinese food. We tried so many times to get him tried. Nope, I will refuse. I don't know what's in that stuff. But Donny was a true dear friend. He literally was a welder. I mean, he loved welding. That was what his passion was, and he was very good at it too. And so whenever we would break down or we needed something, he was always right there to help fix it, and we didn't have to call him, but we just called Donny because he would try to figure it out. But Donny was such a kind soul, but he always had a twinkle in his eye every time he'd show up, you know, well, what's wrong? Let's take a look at it. And, you know, so then pretty soon we needed more help. And so then we kind of talked Donny into running a windrower. Well, that was really cool beans to him, was because he owns the road when you drive a windrower. And he has this theory, I pay the taxes on my and on the road, I can drive the whole road. And I mean, there's bridges you can't hardly fit, but the windrower takes the whole thing. I go, Donny, how do you do that? He says, I own the road. I'm just going to drive and they better back up because I can't back up. But that's just how Donny was. And then I'd ask him, so Donny, how was your day? You know, it was a pretty good day today. I only had 3 birds. 3 birds? Oh yeah, usually it's more than that, and you know what that means. Someone was flying fingers at him because he was going too slow for the traffic. But he says, it's also a good thing because I'm the leader of the parade. You should see the lineup behind me. Now, he loved that windrower, and it was a joy for him. And one time he said, Deb, I really need you to come by, and you gotta watch, there's 2 posts, and I barely can fit in this field. What? You want me to do what? Okay, Donny, I don't, okay. So I get out there, and I mean, there is like, you know, people don't build their fences wide enough where a big piece of equipment comes through. He says, okay, I need you to watch me on each side. There's only about like an inch literally on each side. So there's no wiggle room. So I'm watching him, and we're watching the post, I'm watching the post, and then he's getting close, and I just go like this. And he goes, Dad, that's not helping me. I go, I can't watch you do this. And, you know, and anyway, so he goes, I can't ask you to help. I said, no, you can't. I am not any help to you at all. But I think they just had me for giggles most of the time. Because I am a farm girl. I don't know what farm I came from, because I think in my dreams there should be no mice and there should be no snakes. And everything should just work fine. Well, that isn't how it is in the farming world. Everything works great when everything works great. So when things don't work great, Houston, we have a problem. And what now? I mean, there was always those days. So those were the not so fun. But for whatever reason, we made the most fun of everything. And I think that was the joy, is Donny would work all week long, and he would take his weekends to come and help us. And it was hard work, long days, long hours. But Donny would go by Come and Go, large cup of Mountain Dew, Diet Mountain Dew, and he'd have a cooler full in the back. We had on ice, root beer, because that was Kevin's favorite, Pepsi for me, and Diet Mountain Dew for him, and bottles of water if we really felt needed hydration. But then at the bottom, there was Bud Select. Because that was the after hours. So the Bud was at the end, at the bottom, the cooler, and all the pops and waters were at the top. But he was always prepared for even the end of the day. But he had his choices. It had to only be Bud Select. And so he always knew when he came to our house too, we always had Diet Mountain Dew in our fridge and Bud Select. But Donny was just that caring kind of guy. He would do anything for anybody. And there would be sometimes, you know, we can't control the weather for one. And so it didn't always work out, and we needed more help during the week, and he would take time off, literally, to come and help either run a windrower or run a tractor and a baler. And that's just the kind of guy he was. He just loved helping people. I know in the town of Severance, and even he just loved people. He loved J5. He loved visiting with people on the weekends. I truly think he loved to work, but he loved more to play, because he lived for the weekends. And he truly did. I mean, he loved water skiing when he had the boat in Windsor. The joy that came from that. He loved, oh my gosh, Mike, and shooting off fireworks up on the hill, and half the town of Severance shows up on top of that hill. I mean, he just loved, and it didn't matter. Donny just loved that, and he loved dogs. So he would show up not only for our sodas, but he always had treats for Bear and Lady, our dogs. And he always, if you know him, he loved pets and animals. They were his best friends. And of course, our conversations was whatever dog he had was how's Mandy or how's all his dogs. And he always was a coon hunter. He did not like coons. I don't think anything besides, I don't know, Mike, you could probably tell lots of stories about. Nobody got by his place, or any living thing by his place, without a gun being nearby. He loved auctions, silent auctions. He was always right there. And if there was a gun on a silent auction, he was there. And he was always the last bid. He loved guns. He collected guns. He loved to shoot geese. He loved to change the direction they were flying even, just to shoot in the air. He was his joy. But I have to tell you this funny story. Because one time Kevin was up in the top field on the farm, and he noticed Donny was on the lower farm, and he noticed Donny just going back and forth in this hayfield, and he had grass hay, going back and forth, raking this hay. So then he goes, Donny, what are you doing down there? I lost my wallet. I'm looking for my wallet in the hay, and it's grass hay, you know. And so then Kevin calls me, Dad, you need to come down. We're gonna have to look the field for Donny lost his wallet. What? You're gonna look for a wallet in a hayfield? That's gonna be like a needle in a haystack. And so I said, you know what? We're gonna pray about it right now. We're just gonna pray, Lord, just, you know where it is, and you're just gonna bring it to him like he's gonna find it. And so Donny, Kevin calls me up. You just need to come. I'm gonna keep bailing because it's gonna rain. We're gonna bail, but we're gonna have to look for Donny's wallet. So in the meantime, Donny is wearing out the hay, like in front of the baler, looking for this wallet. And so, so Kevin's bailing, and then as he's bailing, he noticed something sticking out of the side of that bale, and it was Donny's wallet. What are the odds? But only God, I want to say, but only God. And so, anyway, so many God stories even like that. But God is truly with Donny. When he had his episode, so another thing is that man and phones, I'll tell you what. Because when you're diabetic, you should have, that's your lifeline. And so when he didn't answer his phone, he would cause us to worry about him because has something happened? Is he having a low sugar? Or, you know, he's by himself. He didn't have anybody. So many times it was always the phone was an issue, and if he didn't answer, we'd go looking for him. Like, we got to find him. But Donny had a way of, I don't know, just he didn't care. He would have his whatever moments. But Donny was truly, he liked his privacy, but he really loved people. And I think it was a test to see would anybody come. How long will it take for somebody to notice? And a lot of times, but when I would come and find him, that twinkle in his eye would just light up the world like, you came. I'm so tickled. You came and you love me. I love you that much, Donny. And you don't answer your phone. I can't sleep without it. And one time he'd come, and another story. He's not answering his phone. Call Charlene. Charlene, you talk to your brother? I haven't talked to him. He's not answering his phone. Well, I'm going back to Colorado. I'm going to swing by at the time he was at Monica's house. So I'm going to go by and I'm going to see if Donny's there. And so sure enough, he was there. He has low sugars. He was in the garage. And I have to negotiate him to come out, and that we probably need to ask him all these questions. When was the last time you've eaten? Blah, blah, blah. How are you feeling, Donny? I'm all right. You know, no, you're not. When was the last time? I don't remember. Well, Donny, I think we should get something to eat. Might be a good thing. And so in the negotiating, I go get something to eat, and so then I come back, and I call Charlene. Charlene, he is not good. I think I need to take him to the hospital. She said, I think you do too. You just need to take him to the hospital. Well, I get back, Donny is not negotiating with me at all. So I call Charlene. Donny, we're going to call Charlene. So Charlene gets on the phone. So now she's negotiating, and she's not getting anywhere. Pretty soon, out of the bottom of Charlene's toes comes Donald Dwayne Schaeffer. The whole name comes out like that, like just the whole name. And you better listen to me. You're going to the hospital right now. All right, whatever. That was another thing. Whatever. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital. Well, he did. He ended up in intensive care, and it's a good thing he went in when he did. But I'm telling you, Donny was just very stubborn, very his own way. If there was anything he shouldn't eat, he did it anyway. He shouldn't be drinking beer. He shouldn't be drinking whiskey. And he shouldn't be eating cookies and candy or ice cream. But he did. He loved life. And after being around Donny, not being around a diabetic, he inspired me, and so same with his family, because they grew up being diabetics, being poked and prodded all the time, and checking your blood, and living life around your blood sugars, and how you feel and how you don't feel. But Donny truly was an inspiration, because then when he got diagnosed with cancer, that was a tough one. He didn't, the faces you see in the baby pictures, I got to witness all those faces, from the joys to the sad and to the, he didn't like change, but he did not like the diagnosis of cancer, because he lost his mom to cancer. He had been through Charlene's cancer, and she was survived, but he wasn't ready to go through the cancer. And I said, what are you, come on. You've been through, almost lost you in a stroke. Like, you shouldn't be walking today, and here you are. Cancer's nothing, and speaking as a survivor, as I am, I'm like, this ain't nothing, and you got this. You're one tough cookie. You've been dealing with poking and prodding. This is nothing. You're gonna be fine. And you know what? He really took on then an attitude. I said, your sister wouldn't be here either. God has been with you, and he was with you. Look at you. You're a walking testimony of what God can do. You're an answer to so many prayers. Because after when he didn't answer his phone at the house, and we did a wellness check on him, and we found him unconscious. He was in the hospital for almost, a month? And they didn't ever think it was touch and go for several days, but they didn't think he'd walk again. And here he come out of that rehab and walked, and was doing so good, and he was willing to live. And, but anyway, through this all, then that was the time, us and with Charlene, another thing I have to tell you is Kevin and Donny, old-time residents, because they knew Windsor when Windsor was when? Remember when Windsor was one street? Remember when Windsor was the edge of town? Remember when, how many of you can remember when Windsor was small? They would reminisce about the days, remember when. And Donny was always ranting and raving about the city moving out to him, and he no longer had privacy. It was now public. And anything that he did, everybody knew about it, or calling him in. Can't burn nothing. They're gonna call the fire department. You can't shoot nothing. They're gonna call on you because you're shooting something. I mean, he could tell you stories of all the things you can do now that you're in public. And he was in the public, they just came to him. And so that was frustrating for him, but him and Kevin would always talk about, well, you remember when, and all these things when Windsor was small, and all the changes that were happening, and all the changes that continue to progress. It was really hard for Donny to move, but after his episode with the stroke, we encouraged him it was time for him to sell. And he looked us straight in the eyes. He says, I've only known one place. I've only lived here my whole life. I've lived on this farm since the day I was born. This is the only place I know. And it was the hardest thing is for him to give up that farm. But to be honest with you, when he'd come up and he'd visit Nebraska, and him and Kevin would talk about, it's like Windsor used to be. It's a small town. Actually, people get off the road if you're coming down the road with a windrower. They move out of your way instead of try to get in your way. And they don't fly the bird. They will actually wave. Anyway, Donny loved that he could have that again. And he loved the idea that he could take a farm and relocate, because after living in Monica's house, he found out he could live someplace else besides the farm. That was really hard for him, was giving up that farm. It breaks our hearts that he didn't get long enough time to be in his new farm. And I want to encourage you, because Donny lived so well and loved life so much, he was not ready to go. He had too much to live for. And the one thing, you know, Kevin and I, we still talk about today is we need to live life more fully, even though Donny lived life fully and well. I mean, he did. He lived it. Everything was a joy. Everything was truly a treasure to him. He loved people. He loved everything. And he loved life. He loved fishing. Oh my gosh, the joy of fishing. And that was on their bucket list, is they were going to go to Canada and go fishing, and that didn't get to happen. And there was just so much more that Donny wanted to do. And I know there was so much more because, you know, the older generation, they never say, I love you. And Charlene and I talked about that, because Charlene and I both coming from cancer, we tell everybody we love you. And Charlene says, I know, I left the farm, I'd always tell Monica and Donny, I love you, every time. And Kevin would always say, one of these times, Donny's going to surprise you. He's going to say, I love you back. He didn't have to, and he never did, but I felt it. Because that twinkle in his eyes, the minute you walked in the room to come and see him, he lit up. He didn't have to say a word. You could feel it. And when we were with him the whole time. He was never alone, even through the hardest days. And the nurse would call us and say, Donny's calling for you. We'd fly in there like immediately. And I just wanted to see if you'd come. It just feels good to be around you. Anyway, it just was a pure joy. But I want to encourage you, because it's been our takeaway, is we need to live life every day, because it is truly a gift. Donny was a no code up until his last breath. Even to the end, he did. He wanted to be resuscitated. But when he no longer could, and we had to make that call to Charlene, she made the call, no code, so that if he passed, and as they took the machines off of him, and he didn't want to go. He honestly, he fought to the end. He fought through the cancer. He was doing so well. He fought through the rehab. But when he came back and we brought him back from Anschutz, his body was so weakened from the chemo, and his body was so run down from not being active from all the chemo, and his immune system was down. He got COVID. He got UTIs. It seemed like one thing after another. And he was very discouraged, and he kept thinking he was going to get out, and he kept believing every day, when can I go back to rehab? When can I go back to residency? We kept pushing him every day. One more day, Donny, you're going to get there, one more day. And then his days just ran out. And that's the hardest thing, is none of us know our day. But to live life every day and tell the people around you that you love them. And because we don't know, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We joke about that all the time. But no, there is no guarantee. We thought Donny had more years. We really did. And it came as a shock. It came as a shock for all of us. And Donny, I know, wished he was here, because he'd sure be shooting up some fireworks in Nebraska, I'm telling you. You would see him from here. We had plans. And we had plans to go fishing. We had plans to farming. And he loved life. And I'm going to miss his giggles, because he had the most unique giggle ever. Anything he'd done, even if it was wrong, it was a giggle. And he he got ostriches, I think it was for giggles. Because nobody else grew ostriches, but he did. And it was really to have the talk of the town, and it was the talk of the town. How are those ostriches? For giggles, I'm pretty sure it was. And I remember the one time he couldn't figure out how the fence and the ostriches were here, and the head is outside the fence. I don't understand, because how could the head be on the other side of the fence? What could have eaten it or attacked it? And finally he got to looking at the fence. There was a hole, about that big, maybe that big. That the ostrich must have stuck his head through the hole, got stuck, and then with his feet. Because the body's on this side, and the leg was on the other side of the fence. Just like that. I mean, for giggles. I think Donny just loved to giggle, and it was just a joy. And another thing I just had to tell you about, because there are things about the farm, and I want to say it was neglect. It wasn't a priority to Donny, but some things were a priority. The one was his lawn, immaculate to the fence. I mean, it was watered, it was trimmed, it was mowed, everything on that fence. That was a priority, was his lawn. When I asked Charlene about that, yep, Mom and Dad, that was his job, take care of that lawn. That lawn was a priority to him. And he loved it because he had a well, and he'd piss off all the neighbors across the road because they couldn't have water yet. Oh, by spring, I think was it March, he had green lawn because he could water his lawn. And and another thing is his garden. He neglected some of the weeds everywhere else, but that garden was immaculate. Not a weed anywhere. And a couple times we got hailed, and so he'd say, "Oh, Deb, just go out and pick out of my garden." And I'm thinking, "You have a garden? Where?" So he told me it's over there behind the ostriches, over there back in that corner by that fence. And I go out there, it is like a piece of heaven. I've never seen such an immaculate garden. And there was these magic beans, I call them magic beans. They were purple, green beans. And so I said, "Donny, I've never seen purple beans." "Oh, those are a treasure. And when you cook them, they turn green." "Really?" So sure enough, they do. I picked them purple beans, and when you cook them, they turn green. Anyway, I called them magic beans, and just what was a priority to him, it was a priority to him. And the rest of the world, it didn't matter. Wasn't important. He neglected, I wouldn't say neglected, it wasn't important to him. But what really did matter was his friends, his neighbors, his people. He loved people. He loved J9, he loved Windsor. We love Windsor. It's still family to us. We just don't like some of the changes that's happening with Windsor as it's growing and the traffic. But Donny was loved by many. Anybody that knew Donny loved him and had a story to tell you. That's just who Donny was. Donny was just that kind of person. And I'm sure you all got more stories to tell, but that's just a few that we've shared, and we love him and miss him dearly. And it's just, moving on now without him is just a very challenge because he's worked for us for 20 years. And that isn't something you can just forget. But he was always dependable, and we could always count on him. He was always there. So, thank you all so much for coming. This means a lot to us, but also a lot for Charlene. Charlene could really be so thankful and wishes she could be here.
Is there anyone else who'd like to share? I just have one question.
I got it.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
My name's Brian Erlich. I met Donny in 8th grade, I think. He went to school, he was in my brother Greg's class, so he was a couple years older, and in 76, class of 76, and And when my brother passed in '79, Donnie kind of came into our fold, and it was through the hunting and through fireworks and things like that. And Donnie loved telling stories. Oh my gosh. Well, anyways, that was his thing, you know. You'd be standing there, you'd be having a conversation about politics, and Donnie'd go, well, anyways, we were hunting geese down over by the river, you know. But yeah, Donnie and we killed a lot of stuff. And it didn't matter if it was in season. Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. I mean, I remember one time, Mike and my brother Greg and I and Donnie came over, and it was like, when we were kids, goose season closed December 31st. So there was nothing to do from January and February and into March until we started disking and plowing and doing all the farm work. So we were pretty much bored to tears. You know, we went to school, and then Saturdays and Sundays, we'd come out to the farm, and Donnie would come over, and we'd shoot Tweety birds, and we'd shoot all kinds of things. And so this one day we decided to shoot 22s, and we went over to the small farm and went out to one of the, out of the trees, and we were just plinking around these 22s, and we each had a brick of 22 shells. So we had 500 shells each. And the wind came up and blowing pretty good. And it was a sunshiny day, but it was windy. And those geese started coming off the Windsor Reservoir to the west there. And I don't know where they were going, but they were on the deck. I mean, they were so low. They were like 4, 5, 10 feet off the ground. And so Mike and Craig and Donnie and I are in the trees. And we're like, here comes a bunch, here comes a bunch, here comes a bunch. We load up, and those geese would come by, and we're like, pop, 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 shooting them with the 22, trying to see if we can get a goose out of the air. And we kind of talk about it, like, what if we get one? Oh, don't worry about it. They're too hard. We'll never get one. We'll never get one. They're too hard to hit. And man, I mean, we're going through shells, and we're pop, 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 and we're laughing and giggling and all this stuff. And pretty soon the kind of wind, I mean, it was wild. We were getting low. We'd shot probably 300 or 400 shells each at these geese. I mean, and we're not hitting anything. We can't figure it out because they're doing this in the wind, and pretty soon the wind kind of died down for a second, and here came a loner. And we also were thinking, well, if they're low, you know, nobody will see us if we get one. Nobody will see it fall, you know, because it's not a season, you know. And pretty soon here comes this loner at about 50 yards high. And he's flying along, and we're looking at him and we go, what do you think? What do you think? Oh, he's awful high, he's awful high, he's awful high. And we go, okay, let's just give him one shot each. Okay. And so everybody pulls up, and it goes, pap, pap, pap. And then it goes, pap, and that goose goes, poof. Boom. And everybody turns around and goes, who shot that? Who shot that? And Mike goes, I didn't shoot it. And I go, I didn't shoot it. And Greg goes, I didn't shoot it. I shot it. Donnie's sitting in the back of the line, goes, I shot it. So now we're sitting there, now we're freaking out. We're all hiding, you know, we're all down the blind. We're like, oh God, don't stand up, nobody will see us, don't know where it's at. So Goose is laying out in the middle of the ice of the lake, just like radiant, you know, semi-4 light. Right here I am. And so we decided to go get a goose decoy, and we dragged that behind us with a rope, and we drag it by, and as we're walking by, Greg picks up the goose, and Donnie stops the decoy, and we go walking off the ice like, oh, nobody will know. Nobody will know. And I can't remember what we did with that goose. I know we didn't keep it. But we shot it. I mean, we'd go up behind the high school, the new high school up on number 2, and the carp would be swimming up that ditch during the winter. Oh my gosh. Man, we'd run up and down that ditch shooting carp all the time, you know, and so, but yeah, Donnie, you know, we would go up to Cheyenne when we were kids and get all the fireworks and stuff like that. And then, I don't know what happened. By the time we started working for you guys, we kind of separated a little bit. We didn't see each other for a while. And then, here about 7 or 8 years ago, he shows up at Dad's funeral. And we're talking and stuff, and he said, you still shooting fireworks? And I said, oh yeah. I go, I actually have a business now. I shoot fireworks for the town of Wellington and a couple other guys. And I said, well, you need fireworks? And he goes, well, we might get fireworks. And I said, well, give me a call, because his dad passed in January. It's just about the time I was getting ready to order. And so him and Mike come over, and I show him this stuff, and I'm buying by the truckloads. And so the price is insane. So Donnie's like, we're in, and I don't know how much did you haul out of there? I mean, there was a stack of fireworks, when he got, and stuff. So, but he was always, and he's like, well, what do you got? What's good, Brian? I said, well, they got these new fireworks called supernovas. And he said, okay, we'll try some of those. And so we got a couple, cases of them. All we would buy is in cases. So we get a couple cases of supernovas, and that's that reloadable mortar. For anybody that knows what fireworks are, it's that 1.75 inch, and you can reload it. You shoot it several times over. So so we pick up the fireworks like June 10th is when they come in. So Donnie and Mike come over. They get their fireworks, and they go, and Mike calls. So that night, I'm doing things or whatever, and I hear my phone down in the office ringing. I'm like, who's calling me? It must be 9:45 at night. Who's calling me at 9:45 at night on the office phone? I don't know who it is. I get the next morning, go downstairs. Sure enough, there's a message there. And I pick it up, and it says, you have one new message. And I'm like, I'll take all the supernovas you can get your hands on. And that's all it is. Click. I'm like, that's Donnie. And I called Mike. I said, hey, is Donnie? And he goes, oh, God, last night, about 10 o'clock, all of a sudden, boom! Boom! He's shooting those things off in the middle of June, early June, seeing what they look like, and so he wanted to know what they look like. So, yeah, no, FFA, Donnie went to Canada with us when we went up to Calgary, marching in Calgary. Donnie was up there playing tuba with my brother Greg. And so, yeah, we did band trips and FFA trips and then, of course, everything else with all the hunting and shooting blackbirds. Oh, my gosh. I can't be on cases of shells shooting blackbirds and things. But, yeah, his fishing, though, boy, that halibut fishing, that was the deal for him. Man, he loved doing that. He'd always come back and tell us about that stuff. But, no, it was a lot of fun. But that's why I always got it every time Donnie and I get together. Anyways, we was out, and shooting here and doing this and whatever, and he told that one story so I have another friend, Greg Hayes, that would hang out with Donnie a lot, and Greg's up in Wyoming now, but we were out after season, and we wanted to start mounting geese, and so we needed to get a goose to see if we could mount it, and so we were trying to get the geese up by the house after season, and we got some up there, and sure enough, they're walking right down along there, and we get the 22 out, and we thought, we'll just stay in the house and shoot out the window. And then we're getting ready to shoot out the window. We open up the window, well, the window screen won't come off. And we're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll just shoot through the screen. So we shoot, well, the screen deflects the bullet just enough to miss the goose. This goose is standing there like, from here to Mike, and right over there, right side. So finally, about the fifth shot, we hit it, and it took off flying, and it went over into the lake right there and lit the lake, and it ended up, I crawled up on the shore and died, so we went and got that story. So that summer, Donnie's over, and we're having a little party at the house, and Donnie's there, and we're playing croquet on the grass right there, and we walk around, and we kind of had the croquet going back behind the house and stuff, and we're walking back there, and Donnie goes, What's this little circle of holes in this screen, Brian? And my wife at the time, Dad, walks over and he goes, well, those look like bullet holes to me. And my wife looks at me and she goes, Brian! And I'm like, and Donnie's like, ah! He told that story to every person. And anytime he goes, there was this time we were playing croquet at Brian's house, and his wife found out he was shooting geese through the screen window. She was mad as hell at him. He thought that was the funniest thing. Telling that story, he loved that one. So, but, yeah, we had a lot of fun together. We did a lot of things, and I'm gonna miss him. Yeah, I'm gonna miss him. He was a hoot. He was a hoot. He loved to shoot fireworks, so that's kind of our thing at the end there. But yeah, we did a lot together. So anyway.
Anyone else?
I gotta say something. I'm Mike Schaeffer. I grew up across the road from Donny. He was about, what year did he graduate?
76.
So he's about 6 years older than me. The first memory I have of him, we rode the same school bus. And he's 6 years older than I am. I think I must have been in first grade, kindergarten somewhere. It had to be first grade. Mrs. Fiegel. Oh no, she was kindergarten, sorry. Anyway, I'm riding the bus home one night, and if anybody ever rode the bus around here, you know how crazy it could get. I ended up coming home with gum in my hair. Donny Schaeffer stuck gum in my hair. He was no angel. My mom was ready to kill him over that. That was one of my earliest memories of him, but we grew up across the road. Then later, Gene and his family moved up across from us to the north, and there was always some adventure going on in that neighborhood, I'll tell you.
You got back at him for the gum in the hair, though, when you threw the firecracker.
Oh, I was going to tell that story. Leading up, or building up what Brian said, fireworks in the summer were a nightly event. After you got done setting water, it was shooting bats with 12 gauges over at your place, or shooting fireworks. And one 4th of July, and, you know, we had the Bottle Rocket Wars going across County Road 21. Now you can't even hardly walk across the road for all the traffic out there. But yeah, we had Bottle Rocket Wars. It was me, my dad, your dad, and Donny versus my brother Chris, Gene, and Ernie Hinojosa across the road. You guys had the handyman jack, and we had a little...
No, the bumper jack.
The bumper jack.
Out of the Buick car.
That's what it was. And it was a hoot, just having fun shooting bottle rockets. But Donnie we'd start shooting fireworks in the evening sometimes after we were done setting water. And sure enough, here comes Donnie rolling up the road in his pickup, and he'd just park. And we're in the yard shooting fireworks, and he'd have a cab full of fireworks.
Yeah.
And he's shooting them at us, and we're shooting them at him, just waiting for one to go sailing in there and set the whole thing off. It never did, but he'd laugh, that giggle.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Then one night, we're standing around in the yard of that old house. I don't know if you remember, Brian,
Yeah.
where our hired man used to live. And we just stand around in a circle. It was Gene and Donnie and Chris and me. And you'd take all your 1.5-inch firecrackers apart, and you'd light a punk and stick it between your teeth.
Yeah.
And you just sit there from me to Gene, lighting fireworks and throwing them at the other guy's feet. So we're standing around doing this, and everybody's having a good time, and you know, you get pretty good at it. And then one of them, I forget what happened. I flicked one at Donnie, and he had his shirt open down about like that.
Yeah, but one
And
button
that
down.
1.5 inch landed right there. And we're like, oh crap, Donnie. And it goes boom.
Well, he actually looked
He's
down.
looking down, and this thing just blows up in his face. I'm like, are you all right? Are you all right? And you got to do the laugh, man. He just looks up and says,
Yeah, Donnie's giggly. Goes, and he's standing there laughing. His face is blocked and the firecracker blowing up. We're like, oh God, we just blew Donnie's face off. He didn't care. He just lit another one, threw one at me or Chris. We're like, yeah, no big deal.
oh, if we'd have had the stuff that when we got connected with Brian
Oh.
years ago,
We'd be dead.
we'd be dead. It would have been, he had a blast, no pun intended. He had a blast, no matter what it was.
That's how my flatbed trailer got a hole burnt in the floor from Donnie setting fireworks on my flatbed.
Oh,
Looking
yeah.
off.
Yeah, it got bigger the later it went.
Yep.
It was fun. He
We
had
had
a,
that lake right there by the house, and we had a boat there. And 3 of us would get in the boat, and Donnie and Gary and somebody else would be on the shore, and we'd go out in the lake, and we'd circle in, and we'd come straight in like we were a U-boat coming in, and then the fireworks were going, shooting at each other in that boat, you know, trying to keep from hitting each other. God, we didn't lose an eye.
Yeah.
He did it. You talk about, somebody's gonna lose an eye. Yeah, somebody should have lost an eye.
Yeah.
Not two or three of them.
Well, and then he had all these ideas. He's gonna bundle up those sparklers, and he was gonna do all these crazy things. He always had an idea. He always had something new he was gonna do.
Boy, I hope there's no cops or game wardens in here.
Oh, this is all being filmed.
Yeah. He did have
He's
fun though.
explaining that to cops and game wardens upstairs. Gurney's upstairs right now with Donny.
Exactly.
They're having a conversation. That's what they're doing.
Well, they're having something.
So, yeah, Donnie did, he had fun. He had a good time. He
Yeah.
enjoyed life, and we will miss him.
Yeah.
That's a big change out there. That old neighborhood's just about shot now, but he was a good one.